So Pete Alonso recently stepped up to the plate in, I think it was his very first spring training game.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
He saw this first pitch curveball and just absolutely crushed it over the left field fence.
Just a classic Alonso move, really.
Totally. But the reason I bring it up is that in the spring real estate market, buyers are stepping into like the exact same high stakes batter's box.
Oh, 100%.
They're facing what is essentially a 100 mile per hour financial fastball.
It is an incredibly intense environment, because after months of this winter hibernation, the market just suddenly wakes up.
Right.
The stakes become very real, very fast, and you really have to be ready to swing from day one.
Which brings us to our mission for this deep dive. Today, we're unpacking this frantic, high-stakes world.
Yeah, and we've got some great sources for this.
We do. We're pulling from a whole stack of real estate market analyses, some professional inspection service guides, and a really comprehensive strategic paper.
Right, the one that covers markets from Chicago all the way down to the Texas Gulf Coast and the Arizona desert.
Exactly. And the goal here is to show you how to use a professional home inspection as, like, a strategic advantage.
Whether you're gearing up to buy, getting ready to sell, or honestly just trying to maintain the home you already own.
Right. Okay, let's unpack this. Because going into this market blindly is a massive risk. You need a specialized team.
You really do. I mean, the sheer volume of buyers entering a market in the spring, it creates this massive compression of timelines.
It's like a bottleneck.
Exactly. Over the winter, people are planning, they're browsing casually, but the moment the weather breaks, the velocity of transactions just skyrockets.
And the timelines we're seeing in the research are just brutal.
Oh, yeah.
Take a market like Chicago, right? A buyer might go see a property on a Saturday morning, and by noon, their agent is texting them.
Saying the seller wants something immediately.
Yeah, demanding highest and best offers by 5 p.m. today. I mean, there is zero time to sit and ponder.
None. And even after you win that initial bidding war, which is stressful enough, the clock keeps ticking faster.
Right.
Like down in Texas or over in Arizona, buyers typically negotiate a strict 10-day option period.
An inspection window, yeah.
Right. You hand over an earnest money check, and you have exactly 10 days to figure out if this massive financial commitment, which is often the biggest purchase of your life, is actually structurally and mechanically sound.
10 days is nothing, which introduces a concept the strategic analysis paper brings up.
The designated hitter paradigm.
Yes, the designated hitter. So in baseball, the DH has one specific, highly specialized job. Right.
Just to step up and hit.
Exactly. They don't play defense. And in a real estate transaction, your real estate agent is essentially the team manager.
Right. They handle the macro level strategy.
Yeah, the negotiations, navigating the contracts, and let's be honest, managing the emotional roller coaster of the deal.
Which is huge.
But the home inspector is the designated hitter. They are brought in strictly for a technical assessment.
And they have to deliver that technical assessment incredibly fast to keep the whole transaction momentum alive.
Right, because of that ticking clock.
Exactly. The top inspectors are turning around these really comprehensive reports in 24 hours.
Wow, 24 hours.
Because a buyer only has those 10 days, right? They need time to review the findings, get quotes from contractors if they need to, and actually negotiate repairs with the seller.
Okay, wait, let me stop you there for a second.
Sure.
Because I'm looking at a statistic here that says 88% of buyers use real estate agents.
Right, the vast majority.
So if a buyer is paying an agent a pretty big percentage of a massive sale price to guide them through this process, shouldn't that agent just know what to look for? I mean, why hire an entirely separate person just to look at the house?
What's fascinating here is that it really comes down to a strict division of labor.
Okay.
And just the sheer complexity of modern residential systems. I mean, real estate agents are highly skilled generalists and market experts.
They know the neighborhood comps.
Right. They know the comps. They know how to structure an offer to actually win. They understand local zoning. But the technical scope of a home's plumbing, electrical, and structural systems, that far exceeds what a generalist can evaluate.
So it's about removing the emotion from the equation entirely then.
Completely. Think about it. The agent wants the deal to close. The buyer is emotionally invested in, the granite countertops and the great school district.
Right, absolutely. They're already picking out furniture in their head.
Exactly. But the inspector, they are a completely objective, third-party technical evaluator.
They don't care about the kitchen island.
Not at all. They are operating off a highly detailed 300-plus item checklist dictated by established standards of practice.
Right, the SOPs.
Yeah. They don't care about the paint colors. They care about the load-bearing walls.
That makes total sense. And that actually brings us to the actual mechanics of the inspection.
Fun stuff.
Yeah, the guides we reviewed focus really heavily on what they call the Big Four. These are the heavy systems that can financially ruin a buyer if they fail. So that's the foundation, the roof, the plumbing, and the HVAC, your heating, ventilation, and air conditioning.
The expensive stuff.
Exactly. So let's start from the ground up. What is the inspector actually looking for when they evaluate a foundation?
Well, primarily, they're looking for signs of differential settlement.
Differential settlement.
Yeah. So a home's foundation sits on soil, right?
Mm-hmm.
And depending on the region, that soil acts like a giant sponge.
Okay.
When it rains, the soil absorbs water and expands, which pushes up on the foundation.
Makes sense.
But then during a dry spell, the soil shrinks and the foundation drops.
And a concrete slab or like a brick wall doesn't just bend when that happens?
Exactly, it cracks.
Yeah.
So an inspector isn't just noting every tiny hairline fracture in the concrete.
Right, because hairline cracks are normal, right?
Yeah, that's just normal curing.
Mm-hmm.
What they're looking for are specific patterns, like stair-step cracks running through the mortar of a brick veneer exterior.
Oh, stair-step cracks.
Right. That specific stair-step pattern indicates that one corner of the house is sinking at a drastically different rate than the rest of the structure.
Wow. And I'm guessing that's not cheap to fix.
Not at all. Fixing that requires driving steel pierced deep into the ground. It can easily cost tens of thousands of dollars.
Oof. Okay, so moving from the foundation all the way to the top, let's talk about the roof. A roof is obvious when it's actively leaking, but the analysis points out that inspectors are looking for early warning signs.
Right. The subtle stuff.
Yeah, specifically they mention granule loss and nail pops. How does a nail just pop out of a roof?
It's pure physics, honestly. The roof decking, which is the wood underneath the shingles, it's subjected to extreme temperature fluctuations.
Because it's baking in the sun all day.
Right. It gets incredibly hot in the summer sun and then cold at night. So that wood expands and contracts day after day, year after year.
Oh, I see.
Over time, that physical movement slowly backs the nails right out of the wood.
That is wild.
Yeah. And then they push up against the underside of the asphalt shingle, break the seal, and create this tiny, almost invisible tunnel for water to just enter the attic.
Man. And what about granule loss? Those are the little sand-like particles on the shingles, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And they actually serve a critical purpose.
They aren't just for texture.
No. The asphalt in the shingle is what provides the waterproofing. But asphalt breaks down really rapidly when exposed to direct ultraviolet light.
Okay.
So those little granules are basically sunscreen for your roof.
Oh, wow. Sunscreen for the roof. I love that.
Yeah. So when an inspector sees heavy granule loss washing down into the gutters, they know the asphalt is fully exposed to the sun, it's drying out and getting brittle. It's a major sign the roof is at the end of its functional life.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, now let's look inside the walls, specifically at the electrical systems.
This is where things get genuinely dangerous.
Yeah, the guides mention specific brands of electrical panels, Zinsco and Federal Pacific, as major red flags. What makes a specific brand of metal box inherently dangerous?
It's a fundamental design flaw in the circuit breakers themselves.
Okay.
A circuit breaker is designed to trip, to shut off the flow of electricity when a wire gets too hot or draws too much power. It's your ultimate safety net.
Right.
But panels made by Federal Pacific and Zinsco, which were installed in millions of homes decades ago, they have a documented history of failing to trip during an overload.
So the electricity just keeps pumping.
The current just keeps flowing. The wires inside the walls turn into glowing heating elements, and the breaker itself can actually melt directly to the metal bus bar inside the panel.
That is terrifying.
A massive fire hazard. Inspectors are also looking for something called double-tap neutrals.
Which honestly sounds like a bad drink order. What is a double tap neutral?
So inside your electrical panel, there's a metal bar with screws where all the neutral or return wires connect. The safety standard dictates one wire per screw. A double tap is when a lazy electrician basically shoved two wires under a single screw.
Ah. And why is that bad?
Because wires are round, right? They don't sit flush against each other. So over time, micro vibrations cause them to loosen.
And loose wires mean?
Well, when an electrical connection gets loose, the electricity tries to jump the gap. That causes arcing, sparking, and eventually fire.
So finding that during an inspection isn't just about saving money, it's straight up about safety.
Absolutely.
But how does an inspector find problems hidden inside the walls without tearing the drywall down?
Oh, the technology they use now is amazing.
Yeah, the guides talk extensively about modern inspectors operating as a one-stop shop using some serious tech. So it's essentially like taking a house to get an MRI instead of just giving it a standard physical.
The MRI analogy is perfect. The best inspectors today use infrared or thermal imaging cameras.
Right?
They aren't looking with their eyes. They are looking at surface temperatures.
Because water changes the temperature.
Exactly.
Right.
Water is generally cooler than room temperature drywall. So an inspector can scan the ceiling below a second-floor bathroom and see a dark blue, cold bloom on the camera screen.
Which means there's a leak.
Right. An active hidden moisture leak that hasn't even stained the paint yet.
That is incredible. They can also see missing insulation, right?
Yes, definitely. If a contractor just forgot to insulate a section of an exterior wall, the thermal camera will show a massive temperature differential. That invisible gap would otherwise cost you a fortune in heating and cooling bills over the years.
And the technology goes underground, too. The research emphasizes the use of sewer scopes.
Oh, sewer scopes are crucial.
So an inspector threads a high-definition, waterproof camera hundreds of feet down the main lateral sewer line, which is the pipe connecting the house to the city sewer.
Right.
They're looking for tree root intrusion, which happens because trees actively seek out the moisture and nutrients in sewer lines and can actually crush the pipes.
They just obliterate them.
But they are also hunting for Orangeburg piping, and I had never heard of this before.
Oh, Orangeburg is a fascinating and terrifying piece of construction history.
What is it?
So during and after World War II, cast iron was in super short supply.
Right, because of the war effort.
Exactly.
Right.
So builders started using Orangeburg pipe, which is essentially made of wood pulp and hot pitch. Basically, it's tar paper rolled into a tube.
Wait, really? They used tar paper for a sewer line?
They did.
Yeah.
And millions of homes still have it.
That sounds like a disaster waiting to happen.
It is. The problem is that after 50 years of sitting in damp soil, that tar paper degrades. It flattens out into an oval and eventually just turns to mush.
Gross.
Yeah. So discovering a collapsing Orangeburg sewer line during your 10-day inspection window is a huge save.
I can imagine.
Replacing a main sewer line involves digging up the yard, the driveway, sometimes even the street. It can easily be a $15,000 repair.
Wow.
If you find that during the option period, you can negotiate the cost with the seller. If you discovered it a month after closing, that is a devastating financial blow.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. This brings us to a geographical point.
Oh, the regional differences.
Yes. A great technical evaluator has to adjust their focus based on the environment they are operating in.
Right.
The strategic analysis highlights some wildly different regional environments, showing how the local climate is essentially the invisible enemy of the house.
It's so true. The environment attacks homes in entirely different ways depending on where you are.
Right.
Let's look at the Texas Gulf Coast, places like Galveston or Houston. An inspector down there has to be hyper-focused on salt air corrosion.
Because the ocean is right there.
Exactly. The air is literally saturated with salt, which acts as an electrolyte and accelerates the oxidation of metals. It will quickly eat away the delicate aluminum fins on the condenser coils of an air conditioning unit.
They're also dealing with hurricane-force winds, too. The guides mentioned looking for windstorm bond failures.
Right. Down on the coast, the adhesive strips that seal roof shingles together take a massive beating from extreme weather. If that adhesive bond fails, the next major storm will just peel the roof off like the lid of a tin can.
Yikes.
Plus, the extreme humidity means inspectors are constantly crawling through dark spaces, hunting for active mold growth.
Now contrast that with the desert environment.
A totally different world.
Yeah, if you look at Scottsdale or Kierland in Arizona, the playbook completely flips. You aren't dealing with salt or hurricanes. The entire focus shifts to extreme thermal preparation and the monsoon season.
Exactly. People think of the desert as just dry heat.
Right.
But the late summer monsoons bring intense, sudden deluges.
Right.
An inspector in Arizona is meticulously checking roof flashing and clearing gutters because the soil can't absorb water quickly, which leads to flash floods right around the foundation.
The Arizona guides also stress specific pest control hunting for termites, which are incredibly common in the desert, and checking weep holes for scorpions.
Yes, scorpions are a real issue there.
Plus, they emphasize radon testing. Radon is a naturally occurring radioactive gas that seeps up from the desert soil and gets trapped inside the house.
And then you move to a major urban center like Chicago, which is an entirely different operational drill.
How so?
Well, the environment there isn't just the weather, it's the urban infrastructure. An inspector might evaluate a concrete loft in the morning and a timber loft in the afternoon.
And I imagine those age very differently.
Completely differently.
Mhm.
Concrete holds thermal mass and presents acoustic challenges, while timber lofts have unique structural aging quirks and totally different fire suppression requirements.
Oh, okay.
Chicago buyers also have to navigate complex homeowner associations, or HOAs.
Oh, HOAs can be a nightmare.
They can. An inspector's findings might uncover a decaying shared roof, which could lead to the HOA levying a massive special financial assessment on all the unit owners.
So if you put all this together, it highlights a major trap for buyers who are relocating across the country.
Oh, absolutely.
Let's say you have a buyer who has lived in a high-rise condo in Chicago their entire life.
Right.
They decide to buy a sprawling desert retreat in Arizona. They might be brilliant negotiators, but they are going to completely overlook the need to check for scorpions or test for radon or evaluate the variable speed pumps on a year-round swimming pool.
Which is exactly why the strategic analysis stresses that hiring an out-of-town inspector or relying entirely on a real estate agent's out-of-state experience is just a massive vulnerability.
You need a local.
Local expertise is paramount. An inspector from Chicago wouldn't know the first thing about identifying salt air corrosion on a coastal Texas HVAC unit. Your technical evaluator must deeply understand the specific regional threats.
So far, we focused really heavily on the physical defects. Cracked foundations, melting electrical panels, tar paper pipes.
The structural stuff.
Yeah. But knowing the physical flaws is really only half the battle. We need to unpack the psychological game of the real estate transaction.
It is a huge mental game.
Because when people are negotiating over hundreds of thousands of dollars, logic often takes a backseat to emotion.
Emotions run incredibly high, and any uncertainty just breeds anxiety.
Right.
For sellers, the research is clear. The best defense against buyer anxiety is a proactive offense.
And the ultimate offensive strategy is the pre-listing inspection.
Yes.
So instead of waiting for the buyer to bring in their inspector, uncover all the flaws, and then basically hold the seller hostage during that 10-day window.
Right, which happens all the time.
The seller just hires their own inspector before the house even hits the market.
Precisely. It allows the seller to identify and repair major deal breakers early on their own timeline, using contractors they actually choose, rather than paying inflated rush fees.
That is smart.
But more importantly, it allows them to address the minor cosmetic issues that subconsciously terrify buyers.
The inspection guides mention things that seem trivial, like replacing a burnt-out light bulb, changing a filthy HVAC air filter, or getting rid of the dreaded mystery candle and wet dog smell at the open house. But if a buyer walks into a $500,000 house and sees a bunch of dead light bulbs, their brain doesn't just think, oh, a $2 fix.
No, their brain jumps straight to worst-case scenarios.
Exactly.
If the seller couldn't be bothered to screw in a light bulb or change a simple air filter, the buyer subconsciously assumes the seller also neglected the water heater, the roof, and the foundation.
It's a domino effect.
It signals a severe lack of deferred maintenance. A pre-listing inspection, and addressing those small visual cues, signals pride of ownership. It builds trust from the moment the buyer walks through the door.
Buyers have their own psychological hurdles, too. When a buyer gets a 40-page inspection report filled with high-definition photos of rusted pipes and cracked bricks, it is incredibly easy to panic.
This is where the inspector's communication style is critical.
Right.
The sources highlight the importance of a non-alarmist philosophy.
Yeah.
An inspector's job is not to use hyperbole to scare the client. They frame the report as an educational tool, not a simple pass or fail grade.
They basically act as the voice of reason. Separating a true deal-breaker like an active Federal Pacific electrical panel from a routine maintenance item like an aging dishwasher or a cracked switch plate, they prevent the deal from collapsing over basic manageable anxiety.
And part of managing that anxiety is clearing up a massive misconception.
Which is?
Home inspectors are not municipal code inspectors.
Ah, right. If you are buying a home built in 1980, it was built to 1980 standards, it is not going to meet the municipal building codes of 2026, and legally, it doesn't have to.
Exactly. Building codes evolve constantly to incorporate new technologies and efficiencies.
Sure.
An inspector is evaluating the home for immediate safety and functionality, not strict regulatory compliance with modern codes. A home can be perfectly safe and functional without having the latest mandated insulation thickness.
So what does this all mean? If I bring in a fantastic local inspector, they use the thermal cameras, they scope the sewer line, they check the foundation, and I get a report with just a few minor cosmetic defects. Does that mean I am buying a perfect house?
This raises an important question, and honestly, the answer is a definitive no. There is no such thing as a perfect house.
Not even new builds.
Even a brand new construction home will have issues. Builders take shortcuts, materials have manufacturing defects, and things are simply overlooked when a crew is rushing to finish a subdivision.
That makes sense.
The goal of an inspection is never to find a flawless home. The goal is complete transparency.
It's about informed decision-making. You just want to know exactly what you're happing on so you aren't blindsided a month after you move in.
Right.
Which brings us back to you, the listener. Whether you are prepping to sell that desert home in Arizona, whether you are trying to navigate a ruthless bidding war for a timber loft in Chicago, or if you are simply staying put and trying to maintain the property you already own, treating home ownership like an ongoing spring training regimen is really the key.
It requires a proactive mindset. If you regularly check your systems, maintain the small things before they become big things, and bring in a technical expert when you need specialized eyes, you control the narrative of the home.
Yeah.
You stop reacting to emergencies, which dramatically reduces your stress and protects your investment.
As we look ahead, considering the speed at which technology is moving, it really makes you wonder how this entire industry will evolve.
Oh, the future of this is wild.
We already have smart home ecosystems with AI-integrated appliances. We have sensors you can put under a sink that send an alert to your phone the second a drop of water hits the floor.
Yep.
We even have smart electrical panels that monitor the load of every individual circuit in real time. Will the homes of the near future eventually run their own continuous real-time self-inspections?
It's a highly probable shift. I mean, imagine a house that can diagnose a microscopic drop in refrigerant pressure in its own HVAC system.
Wow.
Or detect a thermal anomaly in the wall wiring and automatically send a diagnostic report to your phone before any human could ever visually spot a problem. The dynamic of home maintenance would completely change.
If the house is constantly generating its own highly accurate real-time inspection report, what happens to the human designated hitter?
That's the big question.
Does the professional home inspector become obsolete, or do they transition into being like data analysts, interpreting the home's raw data rather than crawling under the foundation?
It's definitely something to keep an eye on.
It really is. But for now, if you are stepping up to the plate in the spring real estate market, you need to be prepared.
Definitely.
Bring in your technical experts, understand the systems you are buying, and manage the psychology of the deal, because that 100-mile-per-hour financial fastball is coming, and you absolutely need to be ready to swing.